So this is a quadratic word problem, and you'll notice right away that it talks about a ball launched from an initial height of 1.5 feet. So that's one of our points is going to be 0. When the time is 0, the height is 1.5. And then it says it reaches a maximum height. That means it's a vertex. The vertex so your vertex is going to be 1.25, that's your time, 26.5, that's your height. Okay, and it says write an equation to model this situation. So you know your equations are always y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And here is my h, and here is my k, because that's my vertex. So plug in those values. So your equation, again, would be y equals a, we don't know what a is yet, times x minus your h is 1.25. Whoops, I was going to do that in a different color. 1.25 squared plus, and the k is 26.5. Okay? Mm-hmm. And now we have to find out what a is. We don't know what a is yet, but we have another point that we can use to find out what a is, and that other point is 0, 1.5. So we plug 0 in for x, and we plug 1.5 in for y. And when we do that, we can solve it for a. So when you plug it in, a times negative 1.25 squared plus 26.5. So subtract 26.5 from both sides, so that would be negative 25 equals a times 1.25 squared is, so that's a positive 1.5625, and then to solve for a, we divide negative 25 by that number, so 25 divided by 1.5625 is going to equal negative 16. So a is negative 16, so let's plug that back in right there, and that's our equation. So y equals negative 16 times x minus 1.25 squared plus 26.5. There's your answer. Now the question says, right. Oh, actually, no, that was just it. They didn't want you to find it. Usually they'll ask you one more thing, like how high was the ball after 2 seconds?
This is how long it took before the ball.
Oh, or how long will it take for the ball to reach the ground? So which of these values represents the ball hitting the ground?
You enter like your birthday, the time you were born.
When will it hit the ground? That means the height, right?
Yeah.
And what is the height, h or x in our example? Remember, x in our example is time. And y is height. So we're asking when is it going to hit the ground? In other words, when is the height equal to 0? So we're solving this equation. We're setting y equal to 0 and solving it. Now we're going to get 2 answers, but only one of them is going to make sense to us.
Yeah.
Right? So we plug it in, we solve that equation. And again, the way you do that is to subtract. Let me do it over here. We're going to subtract 26.5 from both sides. Then we're going to divide it by negative 16 to get rid of that. Right? And then we're going to take the square root of that to get rid of that. And then we're going to add 1.25. So I can kind of do all that in one step. So your answer when you do that, careful. Yep, so your answer is approximately 2.54 seconds. And does that make sense? It takes a little over 2.5 seconds for it to land? It does. Now the reason you would have gotten 2 answers is because one of them, technically you had a plus and a minus, right?
Yeah.
So the negative one would actually be left. But you don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
So you have an upside down parabola. This equation represents an upside down parabola, and you're trying to figure out where it touches 0, and it touches 0 here at 2.54, and also here at negative something if you wanted to find that out, but that doesn't make sense in our problem.